Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Take It to the Hizzy Fantasy Football TITTH number 157. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. Happy Sunday, everybody. I got a special guest here in David Mendelson from Triple Play Fantasy, and we got Nick and Emron here as usual. How's everybody doing this Sunday?
Good, guys. Doing really good.
Doing well. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, David. How are you doing this Sunday? How's everything going?
Good, man. Church, taking care of the pup.
Yeah.
All the good stuff on a Sunday morning. I'm pumped to talk a little football and ready to get this rolling.
Awesome. Yeah, we're glad to have you. What's everybody's Sunday plans for the rest of the day? Anyone doing anything fun? Nick, Emron?
I'm just hobbled up in the hole for the weekend, trying to recoup from a crazy 2-3 weeks. So, just chilling for the rest of the day.
Cool. Emron, how about you? Anything fun?
No, nothing fun. Got some work stuff, so I'm studying for a test we got. Probably hanging out with the fam later. So nothing terribly exciting on a Sunday.
Yeah, nothing really crazy here. We're gonna do a little shopping, run some errands, clear out some good weather, get ready for the week. How we do. But yeah, let's dive into it. Again, David, really glad to have you, buddy. At any time if you want, plug some Triple Play Fantasy stuff, whatever you're working on here. We're gonna dive into it. We're gonna start off with some news or snooze. We've got Baker Mayfield. Getting some talk out of Cleveland. It looks like his fifth-year option is not really going to get evaluated until sometime into the fall. They haven't given it to him yet. News or snooze, and is Baker the future in Cleveland? Is he the guy that's going to get him to a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl? We'll start with David, and we'll come around.
Yeah, I mean, he's, at least for right now, I expect him to be the future. He's coming off of one of his, arguably his best season in the league. He's looking like he's going to be the guy for the Cleveland Browns. They've got a lot of talent around him. It looks like he's growing with that talent. He did nothing to make you think that he's not going to be the guy. Again, this is one of those things I feel like it's just a lot of quarterbacks go through these negotiations, and I would be shocked. I mean, if he has a bad year next year, maybe we can revisit it. But for right now, I expect him to be the quarterback going forward.
All right on. What do you think, Imran?
Yeah, so I think for Baker Mayfield, I'd say it's a snooze for right now. A couple of things, with the new CBA that they modified, the options for rookies now, when you pick them up, they're stuck with it. You can't, go back and drop it or withdraw it. So once it's in there, it's locked in. So I'm not worried about that. But like David said, he had a really, really efficient year last year, and Baker's one of those guys that's kind of escaped the young QB purgatory. He had he's in the beginning of the NFL 3 seasons. He's had 4 different head coaches if you count all the interim guys. That is how quarterbacks fail in the NFL. They just can't get any consistency. And like David said, he had a really efficient year last year with Kevin Stefanski in that first year of that offense. And I think Stefanski gets it and what that team needs. And that was all without Odell Beckham, right? He's coming back. That can only help that offense. So I think he'll be there for a while unless we see some weird regression that no one sees coming.
What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I think this is definitely news. It's one of those more important contract negotiations that have happened for the Browns. I mean, the last one was Myles Garrett. These guys have shown that they can actually bring some kind of success. And honestly, I think Baker is like the quarterback that Cleveland needs. Like, he loves the city. He loves the grittiness. He responds to them. They love him. It would be I do think he is the future because he's the guy that's turning it around while he's there. I mean, there's been you've seen the jerseys on, with all the names of the quarterbacks since the Browns have been around. There's numbers of them, and he's actually working towards an extension. So I think he's completely worth it considering what they've had in the past.
Yeah, I'm going to actually go opposite. I don't necessarily think he's going to be the guy that gets it done, gets them to a Super Bowl or wins a Super Bowl. If I were the Browns, I would want to see him play in this next coming season before I give him the 5th-year option, because you could have potentially available Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers next season potentially. We're not really sure what the case is going to be with either two. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers here in a minute, but other than those two, the market is pretty thin at quarterback. But the team is built for a championship. I mean, they were very close last year. Patrick Mahomes actually outproduced him in that AFC Championship game, despite playing only 3 quarters. I don't think he played the 4th quarter or something like that. So I'm not a big buyer of Baker in fantasy in general. Last year was very efficient for him, his best year in the league, but he was still top 10 in bad throw percentage in general. So he's not a guy that I'm, attacking in fantasy. And if I'm the Cleveland Browns, I want to see him play out this year and, see what we can do with his second year under Stefanski, because, the numbers just, they don't really overwhelm me. He threw 26 passing touchdowns, but he actually threw 1 more his rookie season. But to me, he trimmed down the mistakes. He had less than 10 interceptions, which was nice. But I'll ask you guys this, just kind of wrap it up. Over under 4,000 passing yards for Baker this coming season. Go back to David.
17 games, so I'll go over.
Okay.
Same.
I'm going to say over. I think that we saw a lot last year, and actually it almost became like an air attack that was possible. And as long as the running backs stay healthy, I think that will take enough pressure off of Baker to be able to pass for 4,000.
Right. Well, the extra game definitely does help, David, for sure. But I'm still going to go to the under. He threw for less than 3,600 this season. 1 more game, I don't see him throwing another 400, 500 yards. So I think that the identity of this team is still their rushing attack in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And they still have some more mouths to feed with the contracts. I mean, Denzel Ward and Baker were drafted how many picks apart from each other? I'm not necessarily sure, but they got to get Denzel Ward paid and a couple of other guys as well. So I think this year you wait out. You see what Baker gives you, similar to kind of a situation with like the Bears last year with Mitch. Like, hey, we'll see what he does, and he in that situation that was a good reason to stay away from that, picking up that 5th year option. So we'll see what the Browns do. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting storyline to follow. I'd be really enticed to see that team with like a Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers at the helm. I'm just not a big Baker guy.
I will add, though, I mean, Cleveland was 4th in the amount of rushing plays run last season. Mm-hmm. So unless they're going to get in the top 3, there's only one place to go, and that's down as far as rushing plays. And with OBJ there, I would expect they probably are going to throw the ball more than they did at the second half of last season. Especially with 17 games, they can't just run the ball all season. They're going to have games where Baker airs it out more with the extra game. So that's kind of those 2 factors kind of tie in for me why I think he will go over the 4,000.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, you just need a little bit more volume there, and you can definitely grab it. Another 75 yards a game, it's absolutely there for him. All right, next up we've got Aaron Rodgers. Looks like it came out that he could actually opt out of the 2021 season. Per like last year's COVID protocols that they installed into the league. We saw a lot of players sit out last year. We don't have much time here. If he opts out by July 2nd, which I believe is next Friday, Aaron Rodgers can still take home a very nice prize of about $18.3 million without playing a snap this season. I mean, should he take Uncle Kenny Rodgers' advice and take the money and run, or what? We'll start with Nick this time and come around.
Hell yeah. This is the best way to stick it to him, man. I hope he takes him for a ride. It kind of sucks that, I say it off screen all the time that Packers are in a weird situation because there isn't an owner that can just say, hey, I'm putting my foot down and putting a stop to this. What do you want? Just a quick example, the Mavs, Mark Cuban's doing that with Luka Doncic. He took all the issues out and was like, all right, how can I help you? And I think that not having like a head person is causing a lot of issues, but this is the best way to stick it to him. If he doesn't ever want to play for it and he still wants to get paid, take this route and go, and you can just opt out and really make it hurt for them.
What do you think, Imran?
Yeah, I think for Rodgers, if he really wants to, get out of Green Bay, this is his perfect opportunity to put his money where his mouth is, right? Everybody's been reporting that if he does not, get his wish, that he has no problem sitting out. He has no problem, sticking it to the Packers and not playing football, right, and just doing whatever he wants. He's got all the money in the world. So I think for Green Bay, if he really wants to, force them into a hand, he tells them that, hey, guys, I told you guys I would sit out. And I can opt out on Friday, and you guys can't do a thing about it. So either I opt out or you guys trade me. And this has been going on for 2.5 months now since the draft. So I think Green Bay missed a golden opportunity just to trade him during the draft and get a boatload of picks and start rebuilding. But if I'm them, this relationship is just too toxic. Just move on, get what you can, and just you drafted Jordan Love, you traded up from him in the first round for a reason, right?
What do you think, David?
This is such a hard situation to read. Like, I feel like a lot of the offseason storylines, everything, I feel like I've kind of been definitely one way or the other how I feel. I really don't know with Aaron Rodgers. Like, there's half of me that says at the end of the day, he's going to come back. Obviously, there's this money, but he's going to have a lot more money he'll get if he'll play. And he's already come out and said on Kenny Mayne's show that he wants to play a few more years. It's not like he's, he already sounds like he still wants to play football. It's not like I'm happy I can retire. He wants to play. So I'm curious if like who's going to blink first? Like, is it Aaron Rodgers being like, all right, I know you're not going to trade me, so I'll play. Or is it the Packers being like, hey, if we say we're putting him on the block, then what kind of stuff are we going to get back? When it comes to the Aaron Rodgers stuff, I absolutely have no gut feeling what he's going to do. And I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out. And I'm sure since you guys are all Bears fans, I think, right? So you guys are loving everything you're seeing that's going down.
It's not disagreeable. That's for certain. And whether he plays another year in Green Bay, at least we know it's the last year. He's going to be out of here. So it's going to be somebody different for the years to come. Which is going to be appetizing for Bears fans because it's been a world of pain for a long time. Brett Favre, then Aaron Rodgers, my goodness. But back to this topic, I don't think that he's going to opt out. I really don't think he takes the money and runs. I think that they either try to figure something out where he can get traded and play, because I think he just would have opted out already. So the news in general, this is a snooze to me. I guess you're really just kind of like buying into whatever rumor like you're hearing about him, because there's the country club rumors we've heard. Oh, Aaron Rodgers secured his country club membership in Green Bay, so he's coming back. Hasn't bought a house anywhere, hasn't sold anything else anywhere. He's coming back, right? And then you hear stuff like this where it's like he can take money and run, and he can just sit out the year. It's a much better situation than like Le'Veon Bell sitting out where he's not getting paid. At least in this scenario, you take a little bit something with you. Maybe you go work Jeopardy, make a little extra side cash over there, hosting a TV show on national television. But for my sake, I want him back. I have a couple of shares of Aaron Rodgers already in fantasy, so I need him on the football field playing somewhere. I just feel like if the opt-out opportunity was going to be taken advantage of, I don't think he would wait till the 13th hour to do it. I feel like that would have already happened already, because at this point, like there's no way for him to go to the Packers organization and say, hey, trade me by next Friday, because the value isn't going to be there. The rest of the league isn't going to be like, oh yeah, we're willing to give you what we were willing to give you at the draft, like Emron was alluding to. No, they're going to be like, hey, 13th hour, here's a couple of picks and maybe a quarterback, whatever. You're not going to get the same type of haul. So I don't see that developing. I just felt like this was just kind of, some beat reporter news, just something to move the chains. But I mean,
the other thing you got to keep in mind too, it could turn into a bidding war. It's not like he can only go to one team. Like if the Raiders step in, the Broncos step in. But wouldn't the bidding war been higher during the draft because they actually had some serious value to give? Like honestly, I want to know who wrote the playbook for some of these GMs, because they're idiots. Like we've all said since this has occurred, the highest value was at the draft, and they honestly had calls that were given to them, and they're like, no, we're gonna wait until like right before the season. I understand there's like a competitive edge of like waiting till the beginning of the season because he doesn't have time to digest the playbook, but it's freaking Aaron Rodgers. Like he'll pick it up whatever he needs to make success happen. I just don't know what they're thinking, and I wish that I could see the playbook that they're reading from, because it sucks, and they should throw it out and try and listen to what we're saying, because they would have gotten a lot more in the draft than they ever will get closer to the season.
Oh, I agree. Maybe it is that competitive advantage, if he is going to get moved to another team, let's leave them, behind the eight ball for as long as we can, keep them out of their playbook, out of their system, building chemistry, etc. All right, moving on. We've got a running backs coach for the football team came out and said, hey, Antonio Gibson, he looks like night and day from his rookie season. We'll start with David. Is Antonio Gibson going to be a top 10 running back in 2021?
No, not for me. No chance. One of my good buddies who's on our show, Brad, is a big Washington football fan, and he's very pessimistic on him as well. He says, Antonio Gibson didn't get any surgery on his turf toe, and those things can really linger if you don't get surgery done. So there's the injury factor there. Another thing is, when you look at just the running backs, when you rank them, I have him as RB16 right now, and I know there are some real Antonio Gibson truthers out there. And again, I'll be happy to be wrong if I'm wrong. Yeah. But I mean, I'm looking at my rankings and I'm like, where am I going to put him? I'm not putting him ahead of obviously the guys up top, and then you go down into like the Aaron Jones. I'm big on CEH. I have him in the top 10 this year, making that leap. Austin Eckler, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley, Cam Akers, Swift. I mean, again, like he's more in that Josh Jacobs, J.K. Dobbins, like Chris Carson range for me. But I also, I'll talk about the meaning of Fitzpatrick to that offense later when we talk about Terry McLaurin, because I'm very high on Terry McLaurin this year. But I think with Fitzpatrick at the helm, that it's going to be a little bit more passing. Obviously, the defense already keeps games low scoring, so it's not like they need to put up a ton of points anyway. I just don't think you don't have check down Alex Smith there anymore, where the running backs are going to need to be as heavily involved as they were before. You have a guy that is going to be able to air it out more, and I think that's going to hurt Gibson a little bit. He's going to be a valuable back. He's going to be a high end RB2 for me, but he's not a top 10 back.
All right, fair enough. Emron?
Yeah, I think he's absolutely going to be a top 10 running back. In that offense, he went from a guy that was very conservative in Alex Smith and limited in what he could do physically as well. Now you have a guy in Fitzpatrick that can stretch the defense a little bit more. They also had Curtis Samuel in the offseason. So I think he's going to face more favorable running matchups when he goes against the opposing front seven. And the other thing I like too is last year he finished in the red zone. He was getting those touchdowns, like backs like David mentioned. Somebody I was really high on last year, CEH. And I was really concerned, even in the opening game last year, he had an awesome game, but they would get inside the 5-yard line. They were trying to pound it in with him, and he just couldn't do it. And Gibson, he was able to finish, and he only played in 14 games last year. He had 11 touchdowns, and he showed off his potential being a receiving back as well. So I think he has that dual threat ability, and I think that offense is going to be a little bit more aggressive than they were last year just because I think Fitzpatrick can do a little bit more. So I definitely think he's going to be, in my opinion, probably in that 8 to 11 range. So I definitely can see him cracking that top 10.
What do you got, Nick?
I took J.D. McKissick in our Dynasty League, and I'm kind of hopeful that he's going to get some third down looks. But if Antonio Gibson really starts taking away that share of third downs from J.D. McKissick, he can absolutely rise in the rankings. I was impressed to see him. I used to be a Washington fan, as everyone knows, and I saw a lot of running backs come through the system, and he did very well. But the culture does not allow for running backs to have consistent success. I mean, Alfred Morris had, top rushing yards in the league two years in a row, and they basically just cut him because Matt Jones was there. And I know there's different coaches there, but, they will literally take the next shiny toy that they want to, promote. But if he makes strides in the receiving game, I think he can absolutely do it. But if it's the same share, there's going to be a ceiling that he just won't be able to crack.
To me, it's all about the workload. Like last year, he had around 170 attempts. If he gets to 220, 230, I mean, sky's the limit. I mean, he had 4.7 yards a carry last season, right around 7 yards a catch on 36 catches. I think he can absolutely do it. And really, to that point that you alluded to, David, is Fitzpatrick, because they do open up the passing game a little bit more. And you can't load the box the same as you were against Alex Smith. There's going to be a little bit more space, a little bit more opportunity. You're adding another deep threat like Curtis Samuel. I think things open up a little bit more, and they don't have to lean on a guy like J.D. McKissick as much. And he just isn't going to be needed in the pass game like he was last year, getting 14 to 16 targets, because the quarterback had, 1.5 legs. Shout out Alex Smith. Absolutely love him. But, with Fitzpatrick or even Heineke there, I know there's a lot of love for him right now. I just feel like there's more upside for the running game in general, and they haven't really added anybody that's going to be a big threat to take away first and second down work. He's a guy that I have going over 1,500 scrimmage yards this year. So whether that gets him into the top 10 or it doesn't, I still think he's going to have a very productive year. He was running back 12 last year. And a lot of that has to do with injuries, right? Another guy we're going to be talking about here, David Montgomery, he was top 5 last year, and he was able to take advantage because there was a lot of injuries around the league to the running back position. I could see something similar happening where he sneaks in. I'm not, stamping it down so hard that I'm saying he's going to be a top 5 guy, but I can easily see him finishing somewhere between 7 and 10. So I am going to go inside the 10 for Antonio Gibson this year. To me, he just has, the framework that they're looking for. He looks like a Ron Rivera guy. That maybe that turf toe injury becomes a bigger thing that it should be if he didn't have the surgery. But the way that they're talking about him right now, I'm taking it with the news and I'm running with it. So I want every bit of Antonio Gibson I can get in 2021. Anything to close that one down with?
No, I'm good.
All right, cool. All right, next up we got Gerald Everett getting a lot of praise from Pete Carroll here. Says he's going to be a real threat in their passing attack. We'll start with Nick. When is too soon to draft Gerald Everett? Like, he's getting great value right now. He's Fantasy Pros running back or tight end. 21. So it's really, really deep. Is this someone that you're targeting? And when is too soon to draft him?
No, not targeting him. Tight ends, kind of historically, like they have had some success in Seattle. But Gerald Everett could have had a bunch of opportunity when he was in LA, and you could see flashes. Like I remember seeing flashes of him, but he could never string together like games or consecutive weeks of success. For me, I'm kind of avoiding him. If he kind of falls and there's no one else available, I'll take him. But I didn't take him in my dynasty league. I need to see a little bit from him before I, even try to like reach for him. But I would just let him fall for myself personally.
All right. What do you think, Imran?
Yeah, he's not somebody I would draft in a standard league. He's got a intriguing career. His catches and yards have gone up every year he's been in the league. So he has been getting better. But I think in that offense, he's definitely at least a third option. I just see him maybe being like a bye-week fill-in, something along those lines. And so unless we see something from him and the way he fits into that offense, because it's his first year also in the Seattle offense, after coming from LA. And then he's very athletic, right? I think he creates some matchup problems, but he's somebody he's going to have to prove it to me. Like I said, I don't think he'll need to draft him. I think he's going to be available on waivers to open the season. And then right now, what I see him as maybe a bye week fill in or maybe a matchup based flex at best, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, David? We got you muted, bud.
Rookie mistake.
It's all good.
Yeah, Seattle likes to throw to their wide receivers. I'm looking last year that Seattle had they were the 17th team in terms of tight end percentage of targets. And, they're like right in the middle of the pack, but I don't see, they're going to need Everett to block because they're trying to protect their best investment in Russell Wilson. They drafted Dwayne Eskridge, who I think is going to become that number 3 target in the Seattle passing game. And there's a lot of, Everett's at best than a 4th option. So I think they're going to use him more on the line. He's a good run blocker and he's a good pass, but he's a good overall blocking tight end. So I think he will definitely have a game or two where, he gets maybe, 4 catches for 76 yards and 2 touchdowns or something like that. And everybody will want to flock over to him. But I think at the end of the season, he's going to be more just like a streaming tight end than anything.
Yeah, and that's definitely where I was going with it. A streaming option that you can essentially get for free at the end of your draft. So I urge people not to overdraft him and to target him probably somewhere with like your last 3 picks. I'd still pick him ahead of a kicker, and albeit all he's going to be is your bench, tight end, or even 3rd or 4th bench tight end. In leagues that do the premium like 1.5 or 2 points for tight end catches, definitely someone that I want to grab a hold of. I think he could be a nice little piece for you. If they can't get anybody else popping, or you get an injury somewhere on that offense, one of those receivers, or they get another injury into the running back group. I think he's just a sneaky option that doesn't cost you anything. And like Emron said, you may get him for free. You may just get him off of waivers. I've seen him go in the last round, the second to last round, and I've seen him not drafted in mock. So just an interesting piece. In the same breath, Pete Carroll was talking up like the 3rd string guy. It's like Parkinson or Parklinson or something like that. So it could just be some coach speak, something like that. But I do like to hear that he's getting praise because he was a guy that I was excited about, getting out of LA. Who, Nick, he didn't stay on the field, but he also had another guy in Tyler Higbee, kind of eating into a snap count. Do you guys see Will Disley being someone that's targetable in fantasy, or just one of these another forgotten tight end?
Look, Pete Carroll loves speaking to the media and just talking up anybody on the team that he can. He really just throws smokescreen after smokescreen. Rashad Penny, Chris Carson. Chris Carson is coming up, but it took a while for that talk to actually be backed up. Sure. Disley, he did show up a little bit, but he can't seem to stay healthy, and that kind of throws off his groove. Any Seattle tight end for me is just a streaming option. Whenever they catch fire, if they're available, I'll take them, but I'm not going to be worried about them in my draft.
Yeah. We just did a draft the other night, David, and I'm pretty sure there was no Disley pick. I don't think Gerald Everett was picked. And I think the same thing happened with the Colts tight ends. I think Jack Doyle and Mo Ali Cox are both still available. So there's just some of those tight end groups that people are just staying away from.
I will say, though, the new offensive coordinator for Seattle is Shane Waldron, who was the passing games coordinator for the Rams the last 4 seasons. So if he has a say in the offense, he does have familiarity with Gerald Everett. So there is that playing for him. So
I like that.
You never know.
I didn't like how he didn't have success in LA, so that doesn't give me confidence, unfortunately. Like, if he's used to him, like he should have been using him in LA. If he's coming to Seattle, I expect to see the same shit, to be honest.
That's fair.
Fair enough. All right, last one here. We got David Montgomery poised to surpass his 2020 rushing totals. Someone from The Athletic, I can't remember. They said he's going to surpass his totals. Is Montgomery a top 10 running back? We'll start with Nick and come back around.
Oof.
Oof.
I mean, like, he was impressive, but it wasn't like I was confident in like him to keep on doing it. There were a lot of injuries to the backfield in Chicago last year, like Tariq Cohen. Like, that's a huge chunk of opportunity that he got just from that. If Tariq Cohen stays healthy the entire year, I don't see him repeating the same kind of year, but he will, get over 1,000 rushing yards. I think he'll be up there, but I don't see him being like one of those guys that you're like grabbing in the first round or even the second round.
Yeah.
He would be more like, third or fourth round if, there's a run of running backs or something like that. So that's kind of how I feel about Montgomery. I think he's a great young running back, but there's focus being shown in Chicago that's leading more towards the passing game. And with Justin Fields coming in, I feel like there's going to be a lot more opportunities for Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson. So I'm kind of bearish on Montgomery right now.
All right, fair enough. Emron?
Yeah, I think he's still going to finish in the top 10 because I think his rushing opportunities are going to increase. Last year, he finished the season on a really hot streak, 700 yards, 7 rushing touchdowns in the last 7 games. The big reason why he was so successful is they actually had a functioning offensive line. If you watched any of their games that were televised, they would try to run the ball, and he would literally get the handoff and be swarmed by 2 or 3 opposing D linemen because the offensive line couldn't get any push. So towards the end of the year, they got that solidified. They also got Tevin Jenkins in the draft, who I think is going to be an absolute unit on the offensive line. So I think their line is going to be better. I think where he will see a dip in his production, he almost had 60 catches last year. And like Nick mentioned, a big reason why is Tariq Cohen was out. So I think with Cohen coming back, I think his his receptions are going to come down a little bit. He'll probably be in the 30s. But I think rushing wise, I think Nagy saw that offense just ran a lot better last year. And the other thing to keep in mind is no matter if it's Dalton or if it's, Fields, obviously Fields is more dynamic, but if Dalton's the starter for the first several games, he's an average quarterback, and an average quarterback is a monster upgrade compared to what they've had the last couple of years. Just the quarterback play has been piss poor. Let's just call it what it is, right? Bottom 3. And having actually somebody competent back there, I think that's going to help him out because the defenses have to respect that and with a better line. So I think that 10 to 12 range, because I think his receptions, which helped him out a lot last year, are going to come down. But I think he's going to make up for it, with his, I think, more rushing touchdowns. I think he'll be double digit, probably 11 to 1,200 yards. So I'd say I have him in the 10 to 12 RB range.
All right. Sounds good. What do you think, David?
He's hard to rank. Right now I have him at RB20. And when you look kind of at his end of the year last year, he played the Packers twice, the Lions, the Texans, the Vikings, and the Jags. Before that stretch, after 10 weeks, he was RB20 before that murderous row of defenses that he faced. I think they were all ranked in the top 10 as far as worst rushing defenses. So you have to keep that in mind. I do think he's really good. I do think he's able to make a lot out of nothing. His elusiveness, his breaking tackles, and it's not like he had, a great line behind last year. The thing that I'm kind of curious about is where I'm kind of tempted to start raising him up. I feel like a lot of running backs do really well when Justin Fields goes and plays quarterback. They have I feel like a lot of holes open up because of the threat of the running back or the quarterback running, right? The option. Like when, they're putting it in the gut and they pull it and they run to the outside, defenses start looking at the quarterback longer, which allows that extra half second for Montgomery to be able to, and explode through a hole. So Justin Fields being there and giving Montgomery probably more holes so that he's ever been used to. That part intrigues me. Like, again, I'm not going to, looking at last season, how he finished, that part to me is kind of irrelevant because of the defenses he played against. But knowing how great of a running back he is, and then knowing what the offense will look like with Justin Fields there as far as what it will create for him through the offensive line, that part intrigued me to bump him up to closer to an RB1. And that's something I'll probably be wrestling with a lot this offseason.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially in terms of the schedule. Like, it was just a very weak strength of schedule for the rushing attack for the teams that he was going against. So you definitely have to appreciate that. And to Nick's point with Tariq Cohen being out as well, have to take that into consideration. But from what we saw from him, he was a top 5 running back, despite, because of all the injuries last year. A lot of big names were out, but he still finished top 5. So that production was there, whether the strength of schedule was good, whether it was bad. It's hard for me to knock him all the way back down to RB20 because of everything that he did and everything that the Bears saw that he could do. So I don't think that this season that Tariq Cohen's necessarily a lock on every third down. I think, if anything, David Montgomery did so much more for himself last year that he's going to get more snaps, he's going to get more carries, and he could just get more of a focal part of the offense built around him. Like Emron said, we brought in Tevin Jenkins. That was a steal in the draft as far as me and Emron are concerned. That's for sure. Probably a lot of people, actually. The line was already looking really good to finish last year. That strength of schedule helped out. It helped teach those young guys a lot of different things, and obviously they had success with it. So I expect him to surpass his rushing total. The top 10 is still really rich for me. I am going to go somewhere between like 11 and 14. I think it's going to be really close. I just don't think that we get the same amount of injuries that we typically do at the running back position this year. And I think he just narrowly edges out. He's definitely going to be close to 1,500 total scrimmage yards, in my opinion. And he's going to flirt with 10 rushing touchdowns definitely again this year. Anything else to add in there, guys? I mean, I like the Fields ad as well. I think he gives them a lot more upside. It's just really difficult to gauge when Fields is going to get on the field. If you ask me and Emron, we're going to tell you halftime at week 1 or whatever, week 2, it's going to be really quick, but we don't get to coach the Bears. So
the one thing I was just going to add, like I mentioned, even with Dalton, let's just say Dalton starts 4 games, I just think there's going to be more opportunities for everybody on that offense because probably if you're not a Bears fan, you probably don't want to watch their offense because of how bad it's been the last few years. But Justin and I know, like, there's so many 3 and outs, so many drives that didn't go anywhere. Like sometimes it was so painful, like a first down would seem like a big deal. And so that really limited the opportunities for everybody on that offense, right? Like the drives would end so often. I think, like I said, even with Dalton starting, I think they're going to be, if he plays average, like I think folks are going to be surprised and they're going to think Nagy's a genius or something because of how many plays are going to work. But I think Dalton's, going to just increase a lot more opportunities, just by being average.
Right. They played the Rams week 1.
Yeah, not
on
great.
Prime time.
Not a great start.
Yeah, it's Stafford's first game too, though, and Bears defense knows how to handle him.
But Justin Fields against arguably the best defense in the NFL, Aaron Donald coming at him. I feel like that's the perfect. Hey, we're gonna have Andy Dalton take on. Yeah, Andy Dalton take this on, so that way Justin Fields doesn't get rattled in his first game going against Aaron Donald. Well, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule. They play the Rams, then they have the Bengals, and then they have the Browns. So I'm wondering if maybe the Browns are a really physical, tough defense, and they play the Lions, the Raiders, the Packers. I'm wondering if that Lions game is his first time he starts.
We don't have time to waste. We need all the wins that we can get, honestly.
My thing was going to be he's not Mitch Trubisky. He's seasoned. Like he's been playing in big games his whole life, and he thrives in that atmosphere. Like he's beat Trevor Lawrence every time he's played him in college. He's done great on the national level, right? He doesn't shy away from opportunities. So the stage, I'm not really worried about the stage with him.
Yeah, I'm just worried about Andy Dalton getting out of the way. Like I said, I don't think he's going to start week 1. It'll probably be Andy Dalton starting that game, but by halftime, I want to see the kid. Bring him in.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting big things of Andy Dalton. Emron, you're definitely more of a believer in him than I am. Andy Dalton,
he's going to be average. I mean, I wouldn't
see another Nick Foles.
No.
Well, that's what I see. I mean, it's just another stopgap. You went and got another one. We didn't need to, and it seems a little bit silly. But obviously, they didn't know if they were going to be able to land Fields. They had to move up to get him and all that good stuff. So, and they'll just kind of wrap up with the David Montgomery. I don't think that, like I said before, like taking David Montgomery off the field for third down work. I don't think we're going to see just like all of that obnoxious Tariq Cohen play calling. Like Matt Nagy has no idea how to use Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen should just be a receiver at this point. Just be another guy that you can roll out there, get a nice easy catch on ending a second or third down or something like that, extending a drive, whatever it is, get Fields on his swing passes or something. But man, stop all the crazy gadgetry with Tariq Cohen, because Matt Nagy just doesn't know how to do it. I think David Montgomery, a few more touches for David Montgomery may make him look a lot smarter than he actually is. So, all right, let's move on. We're going to jump into rank 3. We're going to play rank 3 here, going through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. But before we do, please be sure to smash the like button, share the video, and follow us on youtube.com/tag it to the Hizzy. Let's go. First up here, rank 3, Tom Brady, Matt Stafford, and Ryan Tannehill. David, we'll start with you. Come around.
Yeah, this is a good 3 to pick from. They are definitely like right around where in my rankings. Ryan Tannehill I have as 8, Tom Brady I have as 9, and Matthew Stafford I have as 10. So
nice,
it's perfect. And it's very hard to and if you told me you had a different order, I couldn't argue with you. I talked about a stat about Ryan Tannehill and what he's done since he's been the Titans starting quarterback. I think I won't go with all the stats that I had, but he pretty much, I think from what I remember, that he was the number 3 quarterback once he took over from Marcus Mariota 2 years ago, once you take his numbers for the rest of the season amongst quarterbacks. And then last year when he played with A.J. Brown, if you put that through the whole season, he was quarterback 2. So when he plays and he has A.J. Brown, now he's got Julio Jones there. I know Derrick Henry's obviously still there, but I don't expect him to exceed what he did last year as far as how many times they gave him the ball, especially with the 17th game and especially with the addition of Julio Jones. I'm sure they're going to try to save him for the playoffs when they get there. So I definitely think he'll be 8. Tom Brady right there at 9 with, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. Gronk obviously getting some touchdowns. OJ Howard coming back is another great target for him. I think he'll be right there. And then Stafford is sneaky. Stafford is a sneaky 10. He looks great. I know the Rams have been talking about how great he looks in camp. He I think is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL, him or Tannehill, but he is such a good quarterback. He's also really tough, and he doesn't like ever sit out with injury unless it's like a something that's crazy bad. They have a great offense around him, arguably the best group of receivers he's ever had, because he's had Calvin Johnson, but he didn't have much besides him. He's got 2 good pass catchers. Higbee's a solid tight end. He's gonna have a decent offensive line. Again, if you told me Stafford creeped up to like 7, I wouldn't say you're crazy either. But for right now, it's 8, 9, 10 for me with Tannehill, Brady, Stafford.
Nice. I like it. What do you got, Emron?
I'd probably go with Tannehill, Brady, and Stafford. Tannehill is a really sneaky dual threat quarterback. People forget how mobile he is. He had 7 rushing touchdowns last year, 4 the year before that. So I think the rushing is what really helps me rank him a little bit higher. I am going to be curious to see how that offense looks this year, because they did lose their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who's now the head coach of the Falcons. So that's always going to be, a challenge and a transition when that goes away, because I think he did a great job of really highlighting the skills that Tannehill had, because Tannehill, it felt like he went from an okay quarterback, like he had some good years in Miami, to like elite. Like when David was talking about some of the stats, one of the popular ones that I would always see about him was they were comparing his time as a starter, those games, whatever it was, like 20 some odd games or whatever, to like Patrick Mahomes in that same time frame. And he had everything more than Patrick Mahomes: more yards, more touchdowns, higher yard completed, faster yard completed, anything you name. So I think he's solid. Brady's Brady, right? I think he's going to be amazing until he's not, right? Everybody's been saying it for the last 10 years. Oh, he's 35. It's got to go down. He's 40. It's got to go down. He's 44. He's got to go. Like, it's not happening, right? And that offense, I think, is going to be better this year. Antonio Brown's going to have a full season of knowing that offense. They're going to get OJ Howard back. Like, they already had Gronk. It's going to be filthy. Like, he could be, he could finish his top 3. It would not shock me with how many weapons Brady has in that great O-line. And then Stafford, we saw what, McVay did with Jared Goff, who's not very good. And he gets an elite quarterback. And like Dave mentioned, they really, I think the NFL sleeps on Stafford. He did so much with Detroit and not having a lot around him. He's just a pain in the ass quarterback to cover, just because he doesn't give up and he always finds a way to win. So I think him having Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Higbee, Cam Akers, and having that mastermind that Sean McVay is, I think he's going to – I rank him 3 of these quarterbacks, but it's not because I think any less of him. I just think it's a really talented bunch.
Yep, absolutely.
These were the
What do you got, Nick?
Tannehill stats, by the way. It was led the NFL since he's joined the Tennessee Titans. He's led the NFL in passer rating, led the NFL in yards per attempt, led the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks, led the NFL in game-winning drives, top 3 in touchdown percentage per pass, and top 3 in completions. So yeah, he's a baller, and he doesn't get any type of credit for that.
Maybe it's the Tennessee market. I don't know. What do you got, Nick? What's your rank?
All right, I got Tannehill, Stafford, and then Brady. I got Brady the lowest out of the 3 because think about it, guys. The first couple of weeks, he's just warming up. He is just doing the minimum to get the W's. Everybody has the question every time, like September, October, like, oh man, is Tom Brady done with? And then he just cranks it up at the end of the season. But by that time, you're kind of already behind the 8 ball in your fantasy. So, I had him last year as a keeper, and I was disappointed in the first half of the season. But the second half of the season, kicked ass. He was locked in. So, I think he's still great. I mean, top 10, that's awesome for me. I have him at 10. And then I think Tannehill is going to take a step up because Julio Jones is a way different receiver than Corey Davis. And I think that's going to help him. Like Emron had mentioned, he's mobile. The guy was a former college wide receiver, and then he went to quarterback. He has the mobility. He just chooses to throw the ball, which is awesome because that's what the quarterback's supposed to do. Love the steps that he's taken to improve his game. I was very disappointed in his time in Miami. I knew that he had the ability, but it just couldn't be put together. It always seemed like it just didn't work out. But Tennessee, the magic formula is there. And then Stafford, I think he's going to go off this year. It is a way different situation. And I think Stafford is exactly who McVay tried to change Goff into, and Goff just couldn't do it. So this is the quarterback that McVay has always wanted. It's not just 2 seconds and then the ball's out. He's going to be able to see first, second, third, and fourth progressions. I think the ball's going to be spread out a lot. I got Cooper Kupp on my team. I'm very pumped. I think he's going to pass for a good amount, and he's going to have some team success as well. So for me, it goes Tannehill, Stafford, Brady.
Yeah, mine goes exactly the same way. Would like to give Tom some more love. I mean, yardage-wise, he had a lot more passing yards than Tannehill and Stafford last year. And I guess you just have to kind of buy into that concept. Like, are the Bucs going to be the same as they were last year? If you're telling me that Tom Brady is going to throw for over 40 touchdowns again, over 4,500 yards, you'll probably do it. But like Nick alluded to, there were those low moments, especially to start the season, and we just have to avoid that at all costs in fantasy. I mean, so some of those weeks or the season in general was just held up by a lot of big weeks. And in general, I just like the Titans more, obviously, with the run game. Same thing with LA, like they get that better run support from Cam Akers. So that's why I have those two prioritized ahead of Tom. And I still am going to factor in the age. I mean, he's still an older guy. One wrong hit. And one wrong hit for anybody can go sideways, but they want to take care of him. They don't necessarily have to have him out there week in and week out. So if he had like a minor injury, they could sit him out a week or two, and I just don't want to be running into those situations. Tannehill, all the stats you guys alluded to, the system is great. Yeah, Arthur Smith is gone, but I still think that they're going to have that kind of calm and cool collective playbook. They just don't overdo things. They keep it nice and clean, and they grab the chunk plays when they need to. And I think there's going to be a handful of more of those to go around this year, adding Julio Jones to the lineup. And then obviously with Stafford, like this is a dream come true for him. He's getting overloaded on weapons now. Has a real running game. In Cam Akers, has that big brain in Sean McVay, and two great receivers in Kupp and Woods. So I'm all over that offense this year. Want every bit that I can get. Woods, Kupp, Stafford, Akers, whatever it is. And yeah, I mean it's just a really strong group, like we've already said. What do you guys think for Tom Brady? He threw for 4,600 passing yards last year. What do you think? Over, under 4,800? Just yes, over, under. We'll go with David and come around.
I'm going to go under. And the fact that they'll probably, I think as it gets colder out, run the ball a little bit more. They've got enough bodies there. I'll go under.
All right, fair enough. Emron?
Over.
Love to see it.
Over. I think he's going to have his greatest games at the end of the season, like always. So he really cranks it up for playoff time.
I'm going to go under as well. Just really hard to keep chugging at that rate at that age. I still think that it has to play an effect at some point. I know it's a beaten up theme, but eventually, you got to be able to cash that check. All right, next up we've got running backs. We got Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, and James Robinson. We'll start with Nick this time and come around.
Sorry, what was the question?
Rank 3: Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, James Robinson.
Okay. Robinson's going to be last. I think that ETN's going to take a lot of his shares. Urban Meyer has his way. He has his guys. That's the reason why Tim Tebow is in play on the team. And then let me get them. Josh Jacobs, he's going to be way higher. He's actually the first out of the three because he's still the dude in Las Vegas, even though Kenyon Drake is coming into the fold. But I think that Josh Jacobs is still going to be that main workhorse guy. Miles Sanders, I mean, man, I really hate thinking about anybody in Philadelphia because it's just you don't know what kind of offense it's going to be. They're having a huge organizational change. I think that he is going to have some play in there, but he's definitely going to get more than James Robinson. So it goes Jacobs, Sanders, and then Robinson for me.
All right, cool. Imran?
I'm going to go Sanders, Jacobs, and then Robinson. So Robinson, I really love James Robinson. A lot of talent. He was a guy who was a fan favorite of the Hizzy last year. But unfortunately, they brought in ETN, which it doesn't make any sense to me why they invested such a high pick. But I think that's really going to affect him. Jacobs, I really love the Josh Jacobs talent, but he had a really disappointing finish the last year. And they bring in Drake and Gruden sometimes. Just he gets in his own way. So I'm going to have him as a second. I think he's going to be valuable, but I think Drake's not just being added for depth. I think he's going to play a role in that offense. And then Sanders, I think Sanders is the talented of the three. He's got that game-breaking speed, right? Hopefully he's healthy this year. And I think, having Jalen Hurts, like Dave mentioned earlier, when you have that mobile quarterback in play, I just think that gives the defenses, they have to guard for one or another position, right? They're not just guarding for him staying in the pocket. And Hurts is so athletic. If he breaks the pocket, he can do a lot of damage. So I think Sanders, I know they've drafted some backs, Kenny Gainwell. I don't see anyone really taking over from him, but I think of the three, I think Sanders, for me, has the most upside.
Okay. What do you think, David?
I agree with them. James Robinson, I have as last on this list by a decent margin. Travis Etienne, I think, is just going to be eating too much in that backfield for James Robinson to be even an RB2 at this point. And when it comes down to Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders, I'm not too happy about either of them. But I'm looking at it. It's Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake there pretty much. And Kenyon Drake will definitely eat some carries, but he's pretty much going to be replacing, Jalen Richard and some of a bunch of other guys that have come in there and spelled him at times. So I still think Jacobs will get some, decent number of snaps and the overall workload should be similar to what he's been getting. I think Drake will just kind of get the kind of the 1 to the 2 type of thing. But when I look at the Eagles backfield, I mean, there's a lot of guys there. I don't know if you guys have looked in the depth chart as much. There are some guys that I'm like, holy crap. It's Miles Sanders. Then it's obviously Kerryon Johnson got traded there this offseason. Boston Scott. Kenneth Gainwell was just drafted, who is supposed to be the best pass catching back in this draft. And then Jordan Howard's still there too. Jordan Howard just got brought back there. And we saw in Miami that he was just a goal line monster. He was just literally just eating so many close touchdowns. And if you want to count Jalen Hurts as a 6th running back, who when they get in close, he might take the option and he might run it in himself. Like, I don't want any part of that backfield. Like, I just can imagine having Miles Sanders and they get down to the 1. First play, Jalen Hurts does a QB option, runs it in, they get down to the goal line. Jordan Howard comes in and then punches it in from the 1. I just don't want to mess with anything of that. So I have Jacobs, Sanders, Robinson.
Right on. So I actually have Robinson up top. I have him as number 1, and then I have Jacobs, and then I have Sanders. Reason being is I'm not buying the ETN hype. I think that James Robinson is still going to be the slow, steady way to move the chains for this team that is going to need to be finding itself early on in the season. We had heard talk the other day that Trevor Lawrence may not be ready, quote unquote. I think we can all agree he'll probably still be the week 1 starter. But, as far as developing a game plan, and keeping things simple, go with what you know. Go with James Robinson. I do see there being opportunity for ETN and even Tebow, like Nick alluded to, and some of the more creative play calling, like some of like the play calls that like Laviska Shenault was getting last year for end arounds, reverses, sweeps, etc. But I'm still in love with James Robinson. I think he's going to be just as good, if not even a little bit better than last year. The only downside to him, is the catches. Right? We're all suspecting that ETN should be eating into that workload, but I don't think that just because ETN has a third down role means that James Robinson can't surpass his numbers from last year. And especially if this is a team that still plays from behind. I still think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for James Robinson to catch passes on first and second down. So I'm still planting my flag with Robinson. I agree with you guys and Sanders. He should be at the back end of this. I'm another non-buyer of the Eagles. I'm just staying away as much as I can. Other than Kenny Gainwell, I think he's the only Eagle that I've just consistently continued to draft specifically for dynasty purposes. A lot of value there. Nick Sirianni coming over. He was a big Eckler guy, a big Nyheim Hines guy. I can see Kenny Gainwell developing into that type of role in the coming years. And with Jacobs, he's kind of just stuck in the middle. The rushing attack, like when you look at Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs is still night and day a better rusher, in my opinion. It's just that Kenyon Drake is brought in. He's going to get that usage. He's going to take away some snaps. I just don't see it being in the red zone specifically. Josh Jacobs had 12 rushing touchdowns last year. He has every opportunity to go over the top of that. So to me, that the big value for him is touchdowns and red zone usage. I do see him potentially getting less catches or staying right around the same amount of catches. So it's kind of a split for me, keeping him in the middle. I want to ask you guys this one because all three of these guys have situations where their spellbacks are getting involved into their themes or into their value. So ETN, Gainwell, and Drake rank 3, and we'll come back around. We can just do this one quick. We'll start with Nick.
Gainwell, ETN, Drake. I'm going to say Drake, ETN, Gainwell. And Jake, I'm sorry, we just don't like the Eagles here. We appreciate you viewing us, so we all love over here for you, man, but not the Eagles. So yeah, that was my rankings.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear yours. I was laughing.
It was ETN. Wait, who were the three again?
ETN, Gainwell, Drake.
Oh, Drake, ETN, Gainwell.
Okay, gotcha. Emron?
ETN, Drake, and Gainwell.
Okay. David?
Same. ETN, Drake, Gainwell.
I think I'll put ETN up there, but I'm going to go Gainwell second just because I feel like in Philly, there's an opportunity to kind of take over and earn more touches and earn a role on the offense because no one just knows where the ball is going to be going. Other than maybe Dallas Goedert, I don't know who the prime target's going to be in this offense. So I give him a little bit more upside to earn a role and earn more touches. And with Drake, it's just really hard to know with Gruden's offense. Like we said, like, is he going to be a pass catcher? Is he going to, steal just rushing attempts? Like, how are they going to use this guy? Really uncertain. Would have been a lot easier if he just went out and got a better receiver, Gruden. Jeez, didn't need another running back. What the hell? All right, next up, we've got rank 3. We're at wide receiver position. I don't know for some reason why this says running back. It was in a hurry before the show. Allen Robinson, Amari Cooper, and Terry McLaurin, and we will start with David.
So I am all aboard the Terry McLaurin train this offseason. Right. So I was doing a couple of like my guys threads on Twitter. He was the first one I actually did. So this is the rundown for Terry McLaurin. So I think he's going to take that leap. I have him right now as the number 7 wide receiver in redraft this year. Can you guys name the 6 quarterbacks he's played with in his career?
The 6?
Yeah, 6 quarterbacks he's played with in 2 years.
So let's throw them out. We got Dwayne. We got Alex Smith. We got Heineke. Kyle Allen.
Yep.
That's 4?
Yeah.
4.
So who am I missing?
There's Case Keenum and Colt McCoy.
Okay.
So
Colt. Get him, Colt.
the lovely 6 quarterbacks he's played with. It's just a dynamite group, but safe to say that he's finally getting an upgrade with Ryan Fitzpatrick, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I have Fitzpatrick playing at least half the season. Some people think that Taylor Heineke is going to step in at some point. I think Fitzpatrick plays at least half the season as the starter, maybe plays more than that. But anytime he's been playing at least 8 games in a 16-game season, his number 1 wide receivers had at least 72 catches, 7 of the 8 seasons. They've had 1,000 or more receiving yards 6 of the 8 seasons. And then 3 of those 8 seasons, they've had 10 or more touchdowns. He's also given at least 128 targets to those receivers every year. Fitzpatrick also, so you look at his number 1 wide receivers, the Stevie Johnsons of the world, who basically became relevant when he was quarterback, Brandon Marshall, and then Devontae Parker, who pretty much got paid because of him. Like Devontae Parker was left for dead, and then he made Devontae Parker incredibly relevant by the way he finished out a couple of years ago. So Fitzpatrick is going to be so much of an upgrade for Terry McLaurin. You look at it, according to player profile, profiler, he was the number 1 in pressured completion percentage last year amongst quarterbacks, number 2 in deep ball completion percentage amongst quarterbacks, and number 4 in catchable balls, which is big for Terry McLaurin because there are so many times Terry McLaurin would get open, but none of the quarterbacks could get him the ball, which was the big problem. So Terry McLaurin is such a target hog that he's had 227 targets and 9 yards per target each of his first 2 years there. So I think he's going to remain, obviously, the de facto number 1 in this offense. And I know people are saying Curtis Samuel is going to be there, but I think Curtis Samuel takes away more of Logan Thomas's targets than Terry McLaurin's because Fitzpatrick isn't a tight end quarterback. He's a wide receiver type of quarterback, throws to his wide receivers more than his tight ends. So I'm not worried about that for his target share. If you look last year, his 2020 numbers, he had 1,100 yards. He was actually on pace for 1,400 yards before his last 4 games, when he totaled 155 combined in those last 4. And that was Taylor Heineke's debut game, and that was 2 Dwayne Haskins started games. So 1,400 yards would have been a lot different, I think, for his draft value than the 1,100 he finished with. I think the sky's the limit for him with this kind of quarterback playing with him and the amount he targets his number 1 wide receiver. And again, the Curtis Samuel point, and then they argue about the defense being so good that they're going to limit the amount of offensive opportunities that they're going to have. I'm not concerned at all because I think the upgrade in quarterback alone and the amount of catchable balls he's going to have that he didn't have before, we don't see in the stats that Terry McLaurin breaks open for would have been a 70-yard bomb for a touchdown. He got wide open, but he was overthrown. We don't know it. We don't see that. You don't see those inaccurate throws in the stats. And there have been plenty of them living in the Washington area. I've seen a lot of the Redskins games, and I've been able to see that stuff happen consistently. So I think he's firmly going to be a borderline top 5 wide receiver this year.
All right. How do you rank the last 2?
The last 2, I would probably have Allen Robinson and then Amari Cooper.
Okay, fair enough. All right, what do you got, Emron?
So I'll go with Amari Cooper at 3. Dak coming back is going to help it, but he's also got CeeDee Lamb, who I think is going to take that next step. And he may overtake him in the offense just because he's such a talented receiver. 2, I got Terry McLaurin. I'm a really big fan of his. He's progressing well, and he's probably going to be playing with the best quarterback of his young career, right? And I think the opportunities are going to be there. They got a lot of help, too, from his former college teammate, Curtis Samuel, joining the team. So I think he's going to progress. Number 1 for me is going to be Allen Robinson, not being a homer or anything like that, I promise you. But, Dave is speaking about all the quarterbacks that, McLaurin has played with. How about Allen Robinson? From college, Christian Hackenberg, Blake Bortles, Mitch Trubisky, Chase Daniel, Nick Foles, right?
And Hackenberg.
Yeah, going back, he's no matter if it's Dalton or Fields, he's going to play with the best, most talented quarterback he's ever had, right? And even with all of that, right, he's done nothing but produce. In the last 3 years, he's been in Chicago, 256 catches, 3,000 yards, nearly 20 touchdowns. Teams know that they're going to throw him the ball. Until Darnell Mooney came on, he was really the only, a viable threat on the offense, and he's still been able to produce, right? And I always think when you have receivers like that, like DeAndre Hopkins was in Texas before the Deshaun Watson got there. If a receiver is able to produce when he's the only threat on offense and he doesn't have quarterback play, I think that speaks volumes to his talent. And I think this year, he's going to be able to take another step. So I think it's going to be very close between him and Terry, but I'm just going to take A-Rob just because he's been racking up the catches too the last couple of years.
Yep, absolutely. What do you got, Nick? What's your 3?
My 3. I actually really like this one. Terry was the one guy I got wrong last year. I'm still bitter, but he does very well in Washington, and I think that having Fitzmagic there will definitely rise his stock. I was very impressed on how Devontae Parker looked when Fitzmagic was in. I thought that Devontae's kind of offness was more due to Tua than Fitzmagic, but that will pay dividends for Terry McLaurin. But I'm going to have Amari Cooper above him because I think there's a lot of passing yards to go around in Dallas. And I think that Amari's just going to get his share. He's going to do it quietly. He's not number 88 like CeeDee Lamb is. When someone sees 88 streaming across the field going against the Cowboys, people are going to pay attention. He has the personality to kind of take that heat off of quiet Amari. But Amari's going to tear it up. And then Allen Robinson, I'm going to have him 3. Just because it's going to be an off and on situation. Justin Fields might be getting acclimated. Andy Dalton might play a little bit longer than expected, and I think that's going to affect his numbers a little bit. It's not a knock on his talent, but just a knock on the production that I think is going to come with switching quarterbacks and stuff like that. But once it settles down, Allen Robinson's going to do great. I fully believe in him. But for me, it's going to go Cooper, McLaurin, and then Robinson.
Yeah, so I'm going Robinson number one still. To the point that Emron was making about doing it with bad quarterbacks, McLaurin's been doing the same. It's just that Robinson's been doing it at another level. He's been a top 10 receiver the past couple years already, and I do think he gets his best upgrade in years coming in Justin Fields. Last year he had like 1,250 receiving yards. I think he can go on even on top of that. Only 6 receiving touchdowns, can go over the top of that. 102 catches, just the same. The next two is what is very close for me, and it's literally one ranking spot away. It's either 13 and 14 or 12 and 13, and I have Amari just an edge over Terry, and it's really just because of the schemes of the teams. Like if you look at the defense of the football team, they're not going to be in shootouts as many times as the Cowboys are. So I just lend catches and total touchdowns just as a slight edge for Amari Cooper over Terry. I think that he is going to have more receiving yards than Cooper. It's just how is it going to balance out? So for me, it's really tough to say who's going to go over the top of the other. I think McLaurin has a lot of upside. There are still just some questions with, they're having a better defense, not going to be in those like high profile, high scoring games. And then the quarterback situation, like we mentioned, that I'm hearing football news or football team news around here that Heineke could be the starter week 1. To me, that's crazy. That's kind of, local news radio kind of getting a little too excited about their young quarterback that they have there in Heineke.
Everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But that question mark still, holds me back a little bit. The yards per catch for McLaurin is, out of this world. He only had 87 catches last year, over 1,100 yards, a little bit better than Amari Cooper. The touchdowns are a little bit concerning because I think when you get into the red zone, I'm more of a buyer of Antonio Gibson than I am McLaurin. And then you do add in Curtis Samuel, who could take a couple of touches away, but he's still the dog there. Very excited about him this year. I'll grab either one of them, in my drafts for sure. 1A, 1B, it doesn't matter. One goes, I'll grab the other right away. With Allen Robinson, I just have him, probably a handful of spots, like 4 to 5 spots ahead of these guys, just because he's been doing it more consistently, with lesser talent consistently. So that's just why I hold him up a little bit higher. All right, let's move on to the tight ends. We got Jared Cook, Eric Ebron, and Anthony Ferkser, another group of free tight ends. We'll start with Nick, and we'll come around. How are you ranking these 3 guys?
Man, this is bottom of the barrel.
They're
here.
cheap. They're cheap.
Yeah, they're very cheap. I'm going to say Jared Cook. Actually, I'm going to say Anthony Ferkser first, and then Jared Cook, and then Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron's drops are very concerning. He has every opportunity in the world to make the most of his opportunity in Pittsburgh, and you could see flashes, but they still drafted Pat Freiermuth, who I think is going to really eat into the catches available for him. Jared Cook, he still is a receiver. He hasn't shown the same production we saw in Las Vegas with him. Then he went to New Orleans. It hasn't been the same, but I think he's still going to get some run with the new quarterback. And then Ferkser, even though Julio is going to be coming, I think Ferkser, he filled in nicely when Johnny Smith was out and got some points, and he was, honestly an option at the tight end position later in the season. So that's how I see it. It's going to be Ferkser, Cook, and then Ebron. Okay.
Emron, what do you think?
Yeah, for these tight ends, I'm just going to go with who has the best quarterback. I think Ferkser's one for me of these 3. There's a better offense. I think there's a lot of volume to be had with, no Corey Davis, right? No Johnny Smith. Julio's there, but there's still going to be a lot of targets available because, Henry's not going to be taking him. He's not a dual threat running back. So I think you'll have a lot of opportunity. 2, I guess I would say, I guess Cook. He's very talented, but I don't know what they're going to do in New Orleans without Breeze now, right? Taysom Hill, I don't know what that running back Frankenstein experience is going to look like.
Chargers.
For Cook?
Yeah, Jared Cook's with the Chargers.
Oh, my mistake. It's a long day.
That's why you said when you were ranking the quarterbacks, I was like, man, Tannehill over Herbert. Dang,
yeah, but not just – well, I think I'll still hold it in the same ranking because Cook, he's coming in. He might be, the 3rd, 4th option on that team. You got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Eckler's very, very involved in that passing game. So Yeah, so I'll still keep him there, and I think Ebron. I think the writing's on the wall. They drafted a tight end in the second round when they should have drafted offensive line. So that shows you how highly they think of Fryermuth. So I think he's going to be 3. I think he's just. I don't think he's going to be viable at all this year.
All right, wrap it up for us, Dave.
Yeah, Ferkser number 1. Just again, the quarterback situation, like was mentioned, is the highest priority. Jared Cook, I'm not confident in. Donald Parham, if he's kind of everybody's sleeper, they talk about him. He could get in the mix at some point in the season. Eric Ebron, he'll have 1 game a year, 1 or 2 games where he'll be relevant, but I wouldn't expect it to be consistent. It's, for me, Ferkser, Cook, Ebron.
Okay, fair enough. I go Jared Cook first just because of where I'm drafting these guys. If I'm looking for a tight end on a bye week, I like the touchdown percentage probably the most for Jared Cook, getting some red zone usage. I think Ferkser's kind of in that conversation as well, but you saw with like Jonnu Smith, like the touchdown percentage, like low catches, but a lot of touchdowns. You could see something similar there, and I think that's another good option for a guy coming off of your bench. So I'll go Ferkser second, and then Eric Ebron third. Just like you guys said, the writing's on the wall, drafting Fryermuth. The drops in general, they're not appetizing. Does have some decent touchdown percentage, but there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense as well. Najee Harris, all the receivers. They actually have a couple of other running backs behind Harris. They could steal some touches here and there. So I'm going to keep Ebron at the bottom there. But again, those are all guys that you're going to get at the very end of your draft. So you're looking for what they can do for you essentially on bye weeks or just being as a fill-in or a stream option. All right, let's wrap it up here. We're going to jump into our Kansas City Chiefs team and player props. David, you are a fan of the Chiefs, right? I didn't muzzle that. All right, very good. We got it. So
I am. Yeah.
we will start with you. We are looking at team wins to start it off. Over under 12.5 team wins for the Chiefs in 2021.
I'm going over.
Going over.
Yeah, I'm going over. He's lost a total of 8 regular season games in just over 3 seasons as a starter. So I think it's pretty much guaranteed. 12 wins, I think, they put a good number at 12.5 because they usually will get at least 12 every year. Last year, they went 14-1 in the games he played in. With 13 games and there being a 17-game season, I think that's very much doable. So I'd definitely smash in the over for that.
Yeah, I like it. What do you think, Imran?
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well. Like Dave mentioned, they went 14-1 last year, right? The last game didn't count. They sat everybody. That division, there's been some improvements in that division, but the Chiefs also got better, right? Their biggest weakness we all saw was the offensive line. They attacked it, and then did they attack it aggressively? Joe Thuney, Kyle Long, Orlando Brown. They went from maybe the worst offensive line in the NFL to maybe top 5 right now with all the heat they have on that line. So I think 13 wins is very doable. Over.
I'm going to take the over as well. They just got a lot of firepower on offense. And I didn't know, David, that you were a Chiefs fan. I'm a big fan of Priest Holmes when he played for him. So
hey, there we go.
He was really good. Yeah, I was really a big fan of him. But, they're just a dominant offense. It's really teams playing catch up with them. They can really turn it on at any time. I mean, with Patrick Mahomes last year, I felt like they were kind of like holding him back at certain points. And I'm like, dude, just unleash the guy. Like, let him just ball out. So I think that it's going to be over this year.
Yeah, I like the over as well. Just bringing it full circle. It looks like we're all in agreement. And yeah, to me, it's too low a number. Honestly, I think it should be at about 13.5 based on the success that they've had in a 16-game regular season. So I feel like that's a very appetizing under, and it's paying minus 125 to the under. So the books are thinking it's going to hit the under. I just don't see that being the case. I think that's way too low a number. The next up, we have their division finishing position. So if they're over 12.5 wins, it's safe to assume that we're all in agreement that they're going to finish number 1 in the division. It's paying minus 250.
If Mahomes is the quarterback all season, they will be the number 1 team. No question asked. The only way they won't is if he gets hurt.
That would be the worst thing to happen to the NFL if Patrick Mahomes was hurt, not because like if he was hurt, that would suck because, the Chiefs are such an offensive firepower, but like, it would be like when Brady got hurt and they kind of got the high pick in the draft. Like, I feel like the Chiefs would actually use that pick correctly. I think that year they chose like Chad Jackson, who did absolutely nothing. But, Chiefs getting a high pick, it would just kind of be like the Warriors getting the high pick with Wiseman the other day. It's just like adding to their firepower, When
he went down with that knee injury a couple of years ago against the Broncos, The emotions that went through my body are just undescribable. I've never felt. I wanted to just rip my leg off and give it to him because it was nuts. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I haven't been there with one of my quarterbacks just yet. Hopefully, if you can hear that knock on wood, Fields stays nice and healthy. But the only similar situation I can compare that to is Derrick Rose going down in the playoffs up against the 76ers. Like what just happened over there? What's happening on the television? What? Get up, get up, get up. Like Simba on his dad. Like, stop it. Stop this, Dad. Please. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Justin.
No, I wasn't going to say anything important to the total.
No, I was just going to say, I think the only way they don't finish, I think the only way they have a threat of not finishing one in that division is if Denver gets Aaron Rodgers, because I think that roster in Denver is very, very slept on in the NFL. Like, they have a lot of firepower, and they just don't have a quarterback to take advantage of it. And I don't know if they would knock off the Chiefs, but I think if Rodgers was to go to Denver, I think that would make that division very competitive. But I still think the Chiefs would finish number one. But I think that's the only way it's even threatened.
Yeah, agreed. Even if Rodgers did make it over there, I would still be taking the Chiefs to finish number one in the division. All right, let's look at week one. We've got a matchup up against the Cleveland Browns, AFC Championship rematch. Nice little late 4:25 start here on the East Coast, so we're gonna have to wait to see Mahomes cook. We got a 6-point spread. Which way you going here, David? Do you think the Browns cover or Chiefs blow them out or win by a touchdown?
I don't think they blow them out, but I think the Chiefs will win by a touchdown. The Chiefs don't usually come out flat to start the season. Mahomes actually plays his best usually early on in the season and still plays well throughout the rest of the season, but his best performances are usually the first quarter to half of the season.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the total 52.5? It's kind of high for me with the Browns.
I think it's a little high. I'm kind of interested with OBJ back in the fold because the Cleveland offense didn't look nearly as good with him there, just because Baker would force him the ball and they would take away from the running game, which was their strength. And so that aspect kind of makes me want to go a little bit more to the under. If it hits the over, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'd probably go the under for that reason.
Gotcha. What do you think, Emron? Where are you going here? Where's your early money at?
Yeah, early money. I think the Browns can cover the 6 points. I think this is going to be a very competitive game. I think they match up really well with Kansas City. The trick to beat the Chiefs, right, is keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field. They have 2 stud running backs that can help them do that. Their defense is very aggressive. So I think the Chiefs will still win, but I see this being like a 31-28 game, like a very, very close game right till the end. So I
take the over.
I would take the over.
Okay, all right on. What about you, Nick?
I'm going to take the over and the Chiefs winning because the way that the Browns are built is just not conducive to if the Chiefs get ahead and the Browns just kind of run and try and burn clock and stuff. I feel like the Kansas City team can just score on a dime. At any point they can score and just keep doing that while the Browns are just trying to get their offense chugging along. I'm going to take the over though because I do think that the Browns offense will generate some firepower, but the Chiefs will overwhelm them.
I got you. Yeah, I'll take the over as well, just because I think the Browns might get some cheap points late in that game. Maybe the Chiefs get up early. They get up kind of big and give up some garbage points. So I'll take the Chiefs to cover, Chiefs money line, and I'll take the over. But I'd still probably buy the over down a point or so because that still seems kind of high for the Browns, anyways. All right, let's go through some Mahomes props here, a couple other player props, and we'll head out of here. Really appreciate you having you, David. First, we got Mahomes over under 4,800 passing yards and 41 passing touchdowns. What do you think, David?
Smash the over.
Smash it. Hammer time.
Yeah.
What do you think, Emron?
I'm going to take the under. I just think the numbers are very high. I mean, I could still see him having a really awesome year, 46, 4,700 yards. 48 is a really high for me. Same thing with the touchdowns. I think, yeah, because, if he comes in at 40 touchdowns, right, that's still an amazing year, but it's under this prop, right? So under is just because I think the numbers are very high. I'd be keen to keep an eye on this closer to the season to see if I can get it at a number I like. But I just think it's very, very high.
What do you think, Nick?
I'm going to say under on the yards, but over on the touchdowns. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him to just get those goal line passing touchdowns. I feel like he gets a lot of those. for like a quarterback, and especially in this day and age. But the yardage, I feel like that they're going to try and get CEH more involved in the rushing attack to try and take the pressure off of Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's cool that he can do, anything a quarterback can do, but, just taking a little bit of pressure off of him early on the season can allow him to like be a little bit more rested almost for like the playoffs, I guess. So I'm going to say under on the yards, but over on the touchdowns because he's just going to get a lot of opportunity to do that. And any receiver that he has can break it at any time. So that's also why.
Yeah, I'm going to go slightly under for the yards. I do think he finishes somewhere in the 4,700 range, but it's going to be very close. I think he had about 45 or 4,600 this past season. Is that right, David?
Mahomes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll double check that though.
Yeah, so with the extra game, and even last year he didn't play in the last game of the season, could be a similar situation. So maybe that last game does come down to it. Maybe that's exactly the hook. Maybe only wind up playing in 16 games rather than the full 17. So I'll take like 47-20, 47-50 passing yards, and give me the over for passing touchdowns as well, just like Nick. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. And obviously when you still have Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill there, like there's obviously just a ton of opportunity on every single drive to keep anything alive. Did you have that number, David?
47-40.
Yeah, 47-40 with the extra
Good
game.
line. Good line.
Yeah, I still think it's there. I made that line, by the way. That was me. Thanks. All right, MVP, most valuable player. Patrick Mahomes is the odds favorite. Patrick Mahomes or the field? Go with David again.
I think I'll take the field. I do think Mahomes obviously is the favorite to win it every year, but there'll be somebody that comes out of the woodwork and I think they like giving it to new people. I think if they have any chance to, they will. So like Aaron Rodgers did last year, no one expected that from him. There'll be a quarterback that has a career year that will get it probably over him.
Fair enough. Emron?
I agree with Dave. I think there's really big parity here. Like Rodgers won it last year, but Josh Allen nearly had it at the very end. So, looking at that, it was Jackson the year before, Mahomes the year before. So I feel like I take the field, and I think we can see another young quarterback take that next step.
I'm going to take the field. I think it's going to take a lot for them to say, oh, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the MVP of the league, because everybody has such high standards and his contract has such high standards that it's almost like greatness overload. Kind of need him to go down a little bit and then, not make the AFC Championship game or something like that for the heat to be taken off and him to come back. So I'm going to take the field on this because I think that someone else will come back. Maybe my boy Dak. I'm hoping he comes back, comeback player of the year and MVP. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yeah, I think it's possible.
I'm gonna go with Josh Allen. So the field. When I look at it, you look at all the weapons that KC has, I feel like you're just listing the excuses of reasons why someone else should be up for it. So I'll go with Josh Allen if I have to make a pick of anywhere else in the field. But yeah, with everything out there, you could see Matt Stafford go off for huge numbers and he would be MVP probably as well. I think that's even more likely. I think he was on that list at plus 400, not that far down. Yeah, he's a third name on the list at plus 1,400. Sorry, plus 1,400, right behind Mahomes and Allen. I'll go with Josh Allen. I'll go with the Bills. They don't have a running game. He is their running game, so I'll go with him. All right, last couple of players up here. We got CEH over under 1,100 yards rushing on the ground. David, you're a big buyer, big advocate of him this year. Is he going to hit that number?
Yes, he will. He
Another big smash.
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, he has 8 new offensive linemen. The Chiefs last year were 3 out of 16 when trying to go within the 5-yard line. Rushing CEH was 2 out of 10. The rest of the running backs were 1 out of 6. That's a big fix this year. And I do believe people talk about that Mahomes throws it in close. They were only doing that because they couldn't run the ball in. Believe me, you've seen with Kareem Hunt that if they have a running back and they have a line that can do the job, they have no problem with a running back taking the ball and running it in. So I do think the 1,100 yards, I think the touchdowns go up. Everything is going to shine bright for CEH. Top 10 back. Those yards, to me, it's definitely an over for me.
All right, I like it. Emron?
Yeah, over for me as well. Big investments into their offensive line, the additional game as well. I think he can easily get that over.
Over. Extra game, and I think that he's definitely the future of running back at that position for the Kansas City Chiefs. So give me the over. He's going to be involved more.
Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. Give me the progression, just another year in the league, upgrades on offensive line. Who knows? Maybe they'll go out and get DeCastro too. Maybe they'll just go out and get another guy. Who knows? Yeah, all those themes in play. I'm going to take the over there. I think, I don't know about a huge year for him, but I think he can hit over 1,100 rushing yards for sure. We got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, both over under 1,300 receiving yards. Start with David again.
This extra game, I think he'll get there. So I'll go over as well for that.
For both of them?
Yeah. Well, actually, what's Kelsey's again? It's
both are 1,300.
Ooh, I'm gonna go under for Kelce. I'll go over for Tyreek.
Okay, sounds good. Emron?
I'm going to go over for both for the yards. I think that offense really runs through those two, so I could see them both hitting that. For touchdowns, I think Kelce will get the over. I think Hill is going to come in slightly under, like a very still solid, respectable season, but between 10 and 12. But I don't think I could see him getting 14.
Yeah, so the number that we have for Kelce on receiving touchdowns is 11, and Hill is at 13.5.
Yep. So I think Kelsey's over 11, and then Hill's going to be under the 13.5.
Okay. Well, Hill, keep in mind, Hill is total touchdowns too. It's not just receiving. I got receiving for Kelce and total for Hill.
Oh, for total, then I'll take the over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming punt return, all that stuff.
Anything, yeah. Rushing,
anything,
whatever.
Yeah, then I'll take the over. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see the total touchdowns. I was like, man, 13 receiving touchdowns for Tyreek Hill. What a season. Like, that would be incredible. I'm going to take the over.
Last year?
It's just more receiving touchdowns and stuff. Like, I thought it was strictly receiving. Like, that's a lot of touchdowns for one person in that offense. I'm going to take the over for both in the yards. Kelce, he pirouettes 5 more yards every catch. If you just notice that, like, he avoids contact and pirouettes for 5 more yards and lays down. The guy's going to last forever in the NFL. And then also touchdowns. He's a great red zone threat. And Mahomes is always looking for him. Tyreek Hill, he's available to score at any time. Just throw up the deuces and run faster. I'm going to take the over for every single one of those props.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm taking the overs on receiving yards for Hill and Kelce. Kelce has missed, I think, like 3 games out of his last 6 seasons. So as long as he's there and he's healthy, he's getting another game. He's definitely going over the top. Tyreek Hill has hit this number in twice out of the last 2 seasons or 3 seasons. I'm sorry, and it's only been when he's played 15 games or more. So really, with Hill, it's just a health concern. Like, as long as he's in 15 games or more, he's absolutely going to hit the 1,300. David, I'll let you do the touchdowns here in a second too, because we didn't start with those. 13.5 for Hill. I'm going to take the under still. I just think that, I think he had 17 total this past season, or 15 total, a couple of rushing, and then a hell of a ton receiving. I just feel like we have to come down from that. I think one of those games he had like 3 or 4 in one game. So I feel like there's going to be some regression for Hill's total touchdowns. And Kelce, I will go over the top on the total receiving because maybe he gets – I still think he goes over the 1,300 yards, but maybe there's just a few less targets than usual, and he makes up for that with the receiving touchdowns in the red zone. So I'm going to go over for those. What do you think, David, on the touchdowns?
I would say I would probably go the under for both. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think CEH had 4 touchdowns last year. That's going to go up. And I do think some other players that they our backup tight end Noah Gray has been getting a lot of talk in camp. And I think they're going to do a lot more 2 tight end sets this year. And he's going to be more involved than people realize. So I just think Kelce and Hill are still going to be incredible, but it's not going to be them getting all the touchdowns. It's going to be a little bit more spread out this year than I think people realize. So under for both for me.
Fair enough. All right, cool. Well, that's all we have for today's show. We really appreciate you coming by, David, and being with us. Do you have anything to plug or any projects that you're working on here?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is fun, and being able to talk to. I know you guys live in the Maryland area too, so it's nice to be able to talk with you guys. And as far as triple play concerned, everything triple play fantasy is what we do, and we really are pushing our YouTube channel. We're up at now a little over 300 subs, trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year is our goal. Nice. The website, tripleplayfantasy.com, usually almost every day have a new article up on there. Podcasts are always out. Usually football is out every Thursday. Baseball is out every Saturday. Basketball is out every Sunday or Monday. So we're just pushing out a bunch of content. So if you haven't checked out Triple Play Fantasy, just go ahead and check it out. Really appreciate everybody that tunes in and checks out the show.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys don't see them, check out my stuff. We're all sharing their stuff all the time. So if you don't find it, you'll definitely see it on some of my pages. Emron, Nick, you got anything to close it up with?
Hold your doge.
Hold your doge.
Hopefully it comes back. Nothing for me. Another week closer to NFL.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Blood is itching. Blood is itching. TikTok. All right. Take care. Be well. We'll be back tomorrow for fantasy hockey. Be good. If you can't be good at it. Later.